Well, the Coate Inquiry into Victoria's hotel quarantine disaster left hundreds of important questions unanswered. One of the biggest is what role Premier Daniel Andrews personally played in setting up the hotel quarantine program and hiring private security, and remember, not police or the military, to guard it. We know hotel quarantine was his idea, but the rest, well, Victorians are still fighting for the truth.
The army of people who are working in our accommodation hotels under a plan put forward by Victoria at the National Cabinet to move to a compulsory hotel quarantine model, and was very quickly adopted around that National Cabinet table by all states and territories. I think it's served us really well.
Crucial evidence that could hold the answers to these questions include secret messages between Andrews and his Chief of Staff. Yet they've been hidden from Victorians until now. The opposition is pushing to make them public using freedom of information laws, but it seems the Andrews government is fighting to keep the messages secret. For more on this, I'm joined from Melbourne by the man who's leading the charge to release these messages, Victorian Liberal MP David Davis. David, what do you think might be in these messages and why should they be made public?
Well, we don't know precisely what's in them, but we do know that they moved between Daniel Andrews and his Chief of Staff, Lissie Ratcliff. We know that there's messages on the Slack app system, a messenger system. We know that these messages, the texts between Lissie Ratcliff and Daniel Andrews, were also provided to the Coate Inquiry. Coate didn't make them public, and that I think is a mistake. But we've gone after them under freedom of information. And it's my view, what on earth would you want to block this for? Daniel Andrews, ordered this. What was the exchange? 801 Victorians died through the errors on hotel quarantine. And I say, if he's got nothing to hide, he should have nothing to fear in releasing these texts. Now, the truth of the matter is, yesterday there was a hearing and the government is using every legal trick in the book. They're trying to push about jurisdiction and other issues to try and block the release of these texts. There must be something embarrassing there. I cannot imagine why you would not want these out publicly. And I think Victorians are frankly entitled to them. So, Peter, you played a significant role in asking questions at some of those early press conferences in the hotel, in the lockdown period, in lockdown 2, we're come out of lockdown 4 just very recently. But in that terrible long lockdown, there were questions asked. You pushed that. Coate didn't provide those publicly. She should have, in my view, but we're after them under FOI. And, what on earth would you want to block this for?
Oh, look, I was surprised, and I have done the Chief of Staff's job, so I understand the sort of messages that go backwards and forwards. Ours were always, in the Abbott office at least, and other offices I've worked with, on a text message system or an email system that is discoverable via FOI. What I noticed so much last year was the use of encrypted apps right across the Andrews government. So that's, to me, you're using an encrypted app for a reason. It's all deliberately done to avoid the FOI rules that you're pursuing now. Interestingly, our former head of the AMA, Dr. Julian Raitt, he's joined the calls for a Royal Commission. I've argued for a Royal Commission, not just in relation to Victoria, but right around the country. There's things we've done right in this pandemic. Let's understand them for the next time. There's things that we have got wrong. I can't for the life of me, though, understand why your federal colleagues aren't backing you up, because the powers of a Royal Commission, David Davis, would get to the bottom of all of these issues that you're fighting through legal avenues to find out even now.
There must be, in our view, and we're committed to this if we win government, there will be a state Royal Commission. It is outrageous that the state mistakes that were made here, the terrible blunders that cost 801 lives, are not investigated. And we need to chisel down. We need an independent person, a person with the powers and the ability to compel witnesses, to seize evidence if required. We need that. And Victorians are entitled to know. But on these documents, we know the documents exist. The government has provided 5 documents, but there are 13 documents that they've refused to provide. And, we know those text messages are there. Why on earth would you cover them up? What is the problem with making these public? The community, frankly, are entitled to see them.
Yeah, absolutely. While I've got you, I want to move to another extraordinary development. It's a detailed story, but I think Victorians are following it very closely here in Melbourne. The Andrews government has forced a food company to shut down over a listeria outbreak at a Melbourne hospital linked to a woman's death, despite receiving an expert report confirming the woman did not eat a sandwich supplied by the company. It's called I Cook Foods, and it's a business in Dandenong South. It was hit with a closure order in February 2019, signed off, of course, by Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton, costing 41 employees their jobs. Now, it mightn't sound like a big issue, but we're talking about damage to the business in the order of $60 million.
Tens and tens of millions of dollars.
It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. So how on earth could Sutton sign off a health order to shut down a business, knowing he had an expert report to say that the woman had died not from anything associated with the business?
He even knew the evidence was there that it wasn't the I Cook Foods link, or he should have known. And the fact is, he's closed this business down using the extraordinary powers that he has. And those powers are there for good. You know, there are occasions where health officials need to act to close down a source of infection. But in this case, the evidence was in front of him that this was not the source of the infection. There's real questions about what he said to a parliamentary inquiry. We've called today, my colleague Georgie Crozier has called today for the reopening of that inquiry. We need that inquiry reopened. You know, the evidence has got to be vetted again because it appears that some of the evidence that was given was not quite right. And the truth is, a small business, a sizable small business, was closed down for the wrong reasons, with the wrong information, or willfully. It may well have been willful, and we need to get to the bottom of that. It's a disgrace. I mean, this officials making an error of this type, closing down a business, causing tremendous damage, loss of jobs, loss of a whole business. You just can't have this happening. It's just really very wrong, and we need to get to the bottom of what's gone on here. Now, Brett Sutton's role, he made the decision, and it's become very clear in the very recent period that he had in his possession a report that cleared these I Cook Food people. Now, it's either some sort of incompetence or much, much worse.
All right, if it's found to be much, much worse, if he shut down a business, $60 million is the claim from the business in terms of economic damage and all of those jobs. If he shut down a business but was in possession of a report that cleared the business before he made that decision, should he go, should he resign?
Well, I think he's tarnished on a broad front. But yes, if this stands up in the way it looks like now, that is just extraordinary. And he's got to step back. It's not good enough.